I still chuckle thinking about my early days as a physiotherapist when I learned the hard way that balance safety is no joke. I recall a particularly scary moment when I was working with a balance patient and I was sure he was going down. For a few moments, that felt like forever. We both swayed in between stability and chaos, and thankfully, we stayed upright, but only just. It was a humbling experience that taught me the importance of safety. As physiotherapists, we love the fun stuff, solving problems, coaching patients to overcome their challenges, empowering patients, but safety always comes first. We've all been there, feeling like we're invincible, thinking that mistakes won't happen to us. But the truth is, even seasoned physiotherapists make mistakes. But it's how we respond to these mistakes that matters. We can choose to sweep them under the rug or to use them as opportunities to learn and to grow. I want to encourage you to adopt this growth mindset, just as I did after my own mishap. Remember, safety is not just about avoiding the accidents, it's about creating a culture of care and respect for our patients and ourselves. It's about failing forward. In this video, I'll be sharing 5 essential safety tips from my own experience. I've made my physio mistakes, now it's your turn not to make those same mistakes with your patients. And stay to the end for a dash of sprinkles to make your physio life just a little bit more magical. Let's put our best foot forward as we lace up and step into our trainers. Essential safety tip number 1, soul searching, finding the perfect footwear for physiotherapy. Shoes are kind of controversial in physiotherapy. I say that because the common idea that we all need supportive shoes is vague and meaningless. In real life, our patients wear everything from hefty construction boots to running shoes to lady loafers to flip-flops to nothing at all. Sure, some of this is work-related. Modern safety shoes have saved countless toes. But most of our shoe choice is just that. It's a personal choice. I've met guys who love their boots, wear them all year round. It's part of their identity. Other people are out of their shoes, barefoot as much as possible. Remember the barefoot running craze? When I talk about footwear and physio, it's what do they need to get back to wearing and where do we draw the line in clinic footwear? Part of rehab is getting patients back to what they want to do. If that's a construction job with safety shoes, then as soon as possible, we need to get our patients wearing that kit. This also includes wearing a tool belt. So I've had some patients bring their boots and their loaded belt so they could practice their balance exercises in the kit that they actually need to get used to wearing. Wearing a t-shirt and shorts and running shoes is one level of balance. But if you've never tried to move on uneven terrain wearing a loaded bag, then you're really in for a surprise with how much balance it really needs. Some people do this as rucking, as an exercise. With your patients, start simple, start unloaded, start slow, add elements as the patient is able to cope. The trick here, like any exercise, is to find where your patient is challenged and struggling just a bit. This is the adaptation to overload we're looking for. I've also done this with a waitress patient who has to get used to carrying a tray. So you start with an empty tray and you slowly add little weights to it and get the patient to do the balance exercises that way. Then progress as the patient is able. We'll talk about balance progressions in a minute, so be patient, my young friend, it's coming. At the other end of the spectrum of footwear, there's some people and some activities that are traditionally done barefoot, like karate or some flavors of dance. So the progression here is into lighter, less supportive shoes. Like when your patient can do walking balance exercises in running shoes, try them in flip-flops. Coach the patient to spend less and less time wearing their shoes at home and see how they feel. As a rule of thumb, I'm hesitant to have patients barefoot in the clinic unless I really need to. I definitely do not like socks on a smooth floor. That's a huge fall risk. That's where I draw the line. I do like the grippy socks. That's a good alternative. Every clinic should have a bulk supply of grippy socks for your patients. Safety first. The other huge safety consideration with patients' feet is if they're diabetic or have poor circulation or open wounds. They must be protected. These patients need safe feet first. This means pain-free range of motion, gradually introduce weight bearing as tolerated, gentle closed kinetic chain exercises for sensory stimulation, consider orthotics or custom shoes, consider coordinating care with a podiatrist or a wound care specialist as needed. You don't have to do everything yourself. No one has all the answers. It's okay to ask other people for help. Keep your patients safe. Learn, adapt, and thrive. So now that we're stepping out of our fancy footwear, let's buckle up into our belts and rock this safety swag. Essential safety tip number 2, hold on to your gait belt, folks. It's going to be a bumpy physio visit. Some places mandate we use gait belts with our patients, other places don't. I've worked both places. At first I thought, who needs this? I don't need this. I thought it was good enough just to stand close to the patient and guard them while they're doing their balance exercises. But like I said at the beginning, when your patient starts wobbling, you need to be there and you need to be able to hold on. But what do you hold on to? One time I held on to my patient's pants belt loops. But when they started to wobble, I ripped those belt loops clean off. I realized that I needed a better grip. I needed a gait belt. Now some physios say it's okay to grab the back of your patient's pants. I will if I have to, but sometimes as a man physio grabbing the back of a young lady patient pants, this may not be appropriately. Similarly, I don't hang on to my patient's arm. Like I said, I will if I have to. But then there are times when your patient has little or no pants, like old sweatpants or a hospital gown. The gait belt is the best solution. The gait belt provides a secure grip, allowing the therapist to stabilize the patient instantly if they lose balance. And this prevents falls and potential injuries. Using a gait belt protects both the patient and the physio from injury, providing the physio with a secure handhold. My favorite is the cloth belts with a plastic buckle, typically about 60 inches long. They're cheap. You can carry one in your pocket. You can put the spare one in your bag. They come in fancy styles instead of just the plain ones. They're machine washable. You can use alcohol on them to disinfect them between patients. Also, I've used my gait belt for mulligan mobilization exercises or traction. If you need a longer belt, then buckle 2 belts together end to end. Also, I've used a gait belt to treat the sacroiliac and pubic symphysis pain with great success. Check out my video here, see how it's done. Now that we've belted out the importance of gait belts, let's talk about another accessory that can give us a serious toe up in safety. It's AFOs. Essential safety tip number 3, foot loose and fancy free. Try AFOs for a safer foot drop. There are a bunch of reasons your patient may have foot drop, and your patient's foot drop may or may not even be the reason they're coming to see you this time. Sometimes I see a shoulder patient and they're like, oh yeah, I've got this foot thing too. Foot drop poses a major fall risk. We need to address this. There are 2 sides to addressing this foot drop. One is to look at the cause and address it. Address the stroke, the brain injury, spasticity, treat the back if you think it's coming from the back, stimulate the peroneal nerve if you think that's the problem. This may include nerve glide, flossing exercises, ankle stretches, dorsiflexion strengthening. I'm not talking about this side of foot drop here today. The other practical side of foot drop is to negate that fall risk. Try an ankle foot orthosis, an AFO. I don't want my patients falling while I'm treating the cause. Yes, do the glides, the stretches, the strengthening, work your magic. Ooh! But in the meantime, you have to address the fall risk. Try an AFO. Everyone has their favorites, but I like the classic, simple, L-shaped plastic brace that slips into the patient's shoe, has Velcro at the top to hold it at the shin. Every clinic should have a sample AFO for patients to try. They're not that expensive. Try to get a small, medium, and large, and a right and a left. Put one on your patient. Get them to walk around the clinic for a test drive. Sell them one if they need it, or the patient can order it from them for themselves. These are cheap, they're easy to use, they're effective. The big problem with custom orthotics is that they get expensive. Also, there can be issues with spasticity. Let's not open that can of worms right now. Go see this guy here to talk more about spasticity and bracing. There is a do-it-yourself alternative with a tensor wrap. I've done this when the clinic doesn't have a sample AFO for my patient to try. So the plastic AFO is faster and easier for the patient to use day after day. But when I need an AFO right now and the clinic doesn't have one, that's when I turn to my trusty old tensor wrap. For details, check out my book. So what it boils down to is that if you see a foot drop, do something about it. Now that we've got a foot up on foot drop, let's balance things out a bit, steady ourselves, and progress our patient's struggle to stay upright. Essential safety tip number 4, empowering progressive balance confidence, optimizing patient challenge. Improving your patient's balance is just like strengthening. It needs to be a challenge, but not too much of a challenge. Patients need to struggle just a little bit with that unsteadiness to improve. Just as you don't want to overwork your muscles, you don't want to risk your patient's safety. This is a balance strategy I've developed based on my clinical experience, and I'll give you an overview. The details are in my book. You need to challenge your patient's balance in different ways. Progressively smaller base of support, I'm talking about 2-foot standing going to 1 foot 1 toe to single leg standing. Progressively less hand support, I'm talking about 2 hands to fingertips to hover hands. Progressively less visual input, I'm talking about going from eyes open to squinting to eyes closed. Progressively more unstable surface, I'm talking about starting on a firm flat floor and then progressing to a softer, wobblier surfaces. I know some physios would add external disturbances like environmental distractions or platform perturbation training, but let's get the basics nailed down before we bust out the fancy moves. So all your balance exercises can be done with a combination of these challenges. This is typically the order that I address them with my patients, but that's just my preference. And don't forget that your patient needs closed kinetic chain upper extremity balance progressions too. It's the same idea. Eyes open to eyes closed, stable surfaces to unstable, soft, wobbly surface. Stay safe. Now that we've balanced the scales of our patient care, we can't rest on our seats just yet. It's time to step up our game and learn how to keep our cool when the heat is on in the stairwell. Essential safety tip number 5, Stairwell of Doom, a physio survival guide. When I was a young physio, I remember taking a patient into a stairwell to practice stairs. What could go wrong? I was sure it was going to be easier than chucking corn. But then the patient got dizzy. So I tightened my grip on the belt and on the stair railing, but then the patient threw up. So I tightened my grip on the belt and the stair railing again. And there we were, halfway up the stairs, both sweating, both swaying a little bit. I was thinking, this is a right old mess. But luckily the patient felt better. We got to the top, came back down, we made it back into the clinic, and then I realized I have to start thinking about stairs more carefully. I need you to learn from my mistakes. What lessons can we learn from my story? Safety considerations for the stairs. Be sure your patient can do a single leg balance, at least on one side. Progress from foot taps to step ups. Be clear about your upper extremity support. Have a sturdy hand railing, at least on one side, and show your patient how to use the crutches or the walker before you even get there. Plan it out. Don't get to the stairs with your patient and start wondering what to do. Don't get up the stairs with no plan on how to get down. Maybe they need a chair up there to rest. My biggest tip here is that you, the physio, should be below the patient so that you're there so the patient doesn't go down the stairs. Be below the patient when you're going up and be below the patient when you're coming down. You, the physio, have to hold on to the gait belt at all times and the stair railing at all times. Have a backup person. Somebody has to be there if things go wrong. Don't be alone in a secluded stairwell with your patient. If the patient starts to feel dizzy or throws up, then you have to be responsible for that patient not falling. Congratulations, you've reached new heights in stair safety. Now let's chart a course for success so that we don't fall short on documentation in the bonus round. Whoop whoop, the bonus round. Bonus essential safety tip, writing the oops in your physio notes, falling into good charting habits. Write down what happened right away. Say what the patient was doing and if they got hurt. If they were drunk or refused to use the recommended gait device, write that down too. Explain what you did to help. Your note should clearly state the patient's status at the end of the session, like vital signs and left the clinic ambulating without assistant, no apparent distress, or transferred care to emergency medical services. The patient left the clinic on a stretcher going to the hospital. Your note should include any follow-up plans or recommendations, such as a reassessment next visit, or refer back to the referring physician before the patient is seen in physio again. It's important to write out near misses as well, even if no one got hurt. These help show risks and that can be prevented in the future. Always follow up with your workplace's rules for reporting incidents. Everybody has these rules. Use simple, clear language and stick to the facts. So instead of saying my patient was drunk, which they could have been, say something like the patient presented with alcohol in their breath, mild unsteadiness, and slightly slurred speech. For more advice on physio note writing in general, check out my book on documentation. I know that sounds super exciting. Who doesn't want to know more about physio documentation? But it's what we do every day, all the time. Stephen Covey used to say, sharpen the saw. Does anyone ever remember him? Now that we've charted our course for safety, let's set sail for a conclusion that's smooth sailing. Throughout this video, we've been anchored our safety practices with my 5 tips. And now it's time to make waves in the physio community as we come into the dock this video and load up for our next voyage together. It's your turn. Share your safety stories here. Have you had any close calls or spectacular saves? What are your favorite tips for ensuring patient safety? Let's learn from each other and build a stronger, safer physio future. My 2 books are now available at Amazon. What They Don't Teach You About Documentation in Physiotherapy School, a short how-to manual for successful daily note templates, and From Injury to Recovery Through Exercise, simple functional exercise progressions for physiotherapists to restore lifting, standing, walking. Thank you for your support. You're going to love this video, and let the subscribe button be your portal to more adventures. Thank you.